Teacher AJ is a faculty member of the Department of Family Life and Child Development, University of the Philippines, Diliman. She is currently handling the Infants Development Program of the UP Child Development Center, as well as teaching undergraduate classes on child development programs. She is experienced in research and public extension works related to the field of early childhood development and family life. Her areas of interest include infant and toddler development, parent-child relationships, early childhood education, and inclusive special education programs.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your warm welcome. You are all ECE students from the Education of Hong Kong. So, again, I'm very honored to be invited in your class to talk about the different child development programs we have in the Philippines. Again, my name is Teacher AJ or Annjaneth Alberto. You may call me Teacher AJ as what my students call me as well. I have been in the field of early childhood education for almost 10 years now. And now I'm teaching a course similar to yours. We call it FLCD 124 or Child Development Programs. So here we talk about the programs and curriculum for young children, as well as how early childhood development programs develop over time and the theoretical foundations, philosophies behind all the child development programs that I'm sure most of you are also familiar with. So for this lecture or presentation, I have prepared 3 parts. So first, I would like to share an overview of early childhood education in the Philippines. I would also like to show the types of child development programs we have and an example of child development program here in our own university. Let me start by reading this quote from our local child and youth welfare code. The child is one of the most important assets of the nation. Every effort should be exerted to promote his welfare and enhance his opportunities for a useful and happy life. So based on our local legislation, we view the children as one of the most important assets of our nation. This was declared around 50 years ago in 1974, and until now, this is still our vision for our children. And despite the political and socioeconomic constraints, and also our growing population, the country still remains to be committed to provide learning programs and services for its youngest citizens. So, how do we define child development program in the Philippines? We call it the aim of our child development program is to provide holistic care and education to all children. Holistic care, which means we take into account their social, emotional, physical, psychological, intellectual, and sometimes even the spiritual domain. It also varies in terms of the setting, focus of intervention, types of strategies, and the target clients. So we have several kinds of programs that address the needs and the welfare of the Filipino children. For example, when it comes to their health, nutrition, care and education, and their protection and survival. So for you to have a better understanding of what it is like in the Philippines or what early childhood education is like in the Philippines, I would like to tell a little story about our history. So the educational system in the Philippines goes back to our colonial roots. So we were colonized by 3 countries, the Spain, US, and Japan, for almost a total of 400 years. And our country's geographic character and also our socio-political history also affects how we implement early childhood education today. As you will see from our map, we are an archipelago, which is made up of more than 7,000 islands and separated not just by oceans, but also of mountain ranges. Because of this location, we are also a multilingual country. There are at least 87 languages, but we mostly use English and Filipino as our common language of instruction. So before we were colonized, our indigenous people had a already flourishing civilization. We have established culture, beliefs, and traditions, and we had influences from the Malay migration, Hindu, and the Chinese as well. So in terms of education, there were no formal schooling yet, and transfer of knowledge are according to families and their villages. Because the goal of education by then was practicality and survival. So parents would train their children, for example, mothers would train their daughters housekeeping, weaving, basket making, and then the fathers, on the other hand, would teach their sons carpentry, agriculture, mining, and hunting. And then we also have our own writing system. We call it baybaying. According to a historical document by a Spanish priest, there was no man or woman who cannot read and write in our own letter or language. And the transfer of knowledge were reliant on their own beliefs and passed down only through oral traditions. So this was the context of education before we had our influences from our colonizers. We could say that the education here was fit just for the needs of their times. Then, when the Spanish came in 1565, they were here for almost 300 years, over 300 years. The education here was aimed to convert the Filipinos into Catholicism. They used religion to change the traditions and the practices of the indigenous people before. Preschool education during this time was only limited to teaching children reading, writing, and share religion. It was not required, preschool was not required, and they were only made for rich sons of the ilustrados or the rich Filipinos. And it was done to prepare them for formal schooling, which was, it started from first grade or grade 1 at 7 years old. Missionaries were their first teachers, and eventually there was a national system of education that was created for the masses only in the 19th century. So from 1500s, they only established the national system of education for the masses in the 19th century. So only rich Filipino families could afford preschool, and they were taught using the cartilla system. This cartilla system was a method that combines letters of the alphabet to form words, similar to what we have now as the phonetic approach to reading. This was only 30 minutes per class. It lasted for 3 to 6 months, depending on the child's ability. So if the child is a little more advanced, he could finish this in 3 months. Or if not, he could finish it in 6 months. But this was not strictly organized, and children could enroll or withdraw at any time, since preschool was not required here. And no formal training are available as well for the teachers. As long as you are an educated adult from a good standing community or family, you are allowed to teach children using the cartilla system. So now let's go to the American times. So unlike the Spanish era, the Americans already shared the privilege of education to most Filipinos. So again, in the Spanish era, education was only available for rich sons of Filipino families. Here, education became everyone's right. So there was the establishment of the public education system at the primary level. Also, women were now allowed access to education through the public school systems. So from Spanish, now English was the language of instruction. This was done so that there's a common language, and it was needed because there were many languages across the archipelago. The first kindergarten department here was established in the Harris Memorial School, Manila in 1924. So it was only in 1924 where we had our own kindergarten department with influences brought by Miss Brigida Fernando. She brought influences from the US back here in the Philippines and started the kindergarten department. And because schools were no longer reserved for the rich, there was an increase in the number of private schools as the government could not meet the demand of the growing student population. So preschool education was solely in the hands now of the private schools or church-oriented organizations. Then in 1941, we also had the Japanese invasion, which lasted until 1945. So I think this is more similar to Hong Kong. War broke out and temporarily slowed down the growth of ECE. And during their occupation, the Japanese-sponsored republic reopened the schools and created their Ministry of Education, which aims to focus on teaching Philippine history and character education. Also emphasis on love for work and dignity of labor. And to stop the Filipinos from using the English language, they made Nipongo language as the mode of instruction from earliest grade until college. But due to the various war events happening here in World War II, there was also a decrease in preschool enrollment, and most Filipino parents banned their children from attending schools because first, fear of the war, and also due to the negative responses from the new imposed curriculum by the Japanese. Now, after the war, at least 80% of the pertinent educational institution and tools were wrecked. There were a severe shortage of trained teachers, classroom facilities, and textbooks, and some classes were even held on garages of homes or ground floors of churches. So the need and importance of preschools emerged once again after the war, and entrepreneurs joined in the efforts to establish kindergarten and nursery schools. So that includes also religious and civic-minded groups. And kindergarten enrollment increased again annually until now, and it was mostly provided by private institutions. Until today, this is still the scenario. So most preschools are handled by private institutions. So only recently in the 1900s, the government had to step in to manage the quality of the growing number of early childhood education institutions and set up the requirements and standards for preschool. So here we have the recent developments of ECE. Let me just share some of the laws or legislations that we have in order to manage the quality of ECE in the country. First, in 1990, we have an act establishing the daycare center in every barangay and institute the development and protection of children program. In 2000, we have the Early Childhood Care and Development Act, or ECCD, to proclaim a national system for ECCD. Recently, in 2012, kindergarten was declared to be compulsory as part of the basic education system. So kindergarten is now required for children aged 5 to 6 years old. And the most recent one is in 2013. This is the ECCD Early Years Act, which ensured that we have a council, a centralized council, that will check the implementation and quality of early childhood care and development programs in the country. Okay, so that's a brief background on the history and the continuous development of early childhood education here in the Philippines. So now we have the government who is taking part in the implementation of ECCD. And as mentioned earlier, they established the ECCD Council, or the national government agency mandated to implement the national ECCD system, which refers to the full range of health, nutrition, early education, social services development programs that provide for the basic holistic needs of young children. Okay, together with ECCD are other government agencies such as the Department of Education, Department of Social Welfare and Development, the Department of Health, the National Nutrition Council, and our Union of Local Authorities of the Philippines, and also a representative from the private ECCD practitioners. So all of them oversee the quality and the programs of early childhood education. Now, for the types of ECCD programs, we call our child development programs ECCD programs or early learning programs. So we have center-based programs and home-based programs. For center-based programs, there are child development centers or bulilit centers. In Filipino, bulilit means little children. So these NCDCs serve as the repository of related and relevant data and documents on the best practices in the community on early childhood care and development. We also have our infant toddler early development program catered to children 0 to 2 years old, the nursery or pre-kindergarten program for children aged 3 to 5 years old, and kindergarten programs from children aged 5 to 6 years old. So now the Department of Education believes in the importance of early childhood care and development, including the kindergarten programs. And it is now required for young Filipino children to start from kindergarten before they enter the formal education system in grades 1 until grade 12. We also have home-based programs. So home-based ECCD programs are learning initiatives designed to reinforce parents and caregivers as the primary caregivers and educators of their children. So here we have neighborhood play-based groups, family child care programs, parent education, and home visiting programs. So they are all done especially for children and families who face challenges in accessing center-based programs. For example, they live in areas in which existing centers are geographically far from the child, areas in which transportation is unavailable, poor, and unsafe for children, or they are currently affected by emergencies and other natural calamities. Now, we have ECCD or Early Childhood Care and Development Service providers who implement these child development programs in the country. They are professionals, paraprofessionals, and also volunteers who are directly responsible for the care and education of young children. So first we have the child development teachers, the child development workers, teacher aides, and parent volunteers. We also consider social workers, community health workers, nutrition scholars, and rural midwives as part of the ECCD service providers. So our council continues to equip these service providers through their human resource development programs dedicated to upgrade and update the ECCD providers' capabilities to comply with the quality standards for various ECCD programs. So every year, they continue to refresh their education and training of ECCD. Now, for an example of our child development program, one of the flagship child development programs in the country and one of the first progressive schools located is in our university. This is called the UP Child Development Center or UPCDC. UPCDC was established in 1957 as the laboratory school of the Department of Family Life and Child Development of the College of Home Economics. We cater to children from ages 3 months to 5.5 years old. We have, we are the first to institute an infant development program and the first to promote the multi-age groupings in the Philippines. So actually, I am the coordinating teacher right now of the UPCBC's Infant Development Program Older Age Group, which means my students in the laboratory class they started at age 6 months until 6 to 10 months at the start of our school year. So I would like to share some pictures for you so you can better see our center. So these are pictures from my previous classes and our current setup in UPCBC. So here, UPCBC adheres to the developmental, holistic, humanistic view of the child, understanding child development in the context of the family and their wider societal influences, including the school and the community. As a progressive school, we believe that teachers are facilitators of learning who understand and respect the individuality and uniqueness of each child. So we plan and our lessons, our activities, according to what is developmentally appropriate and relevant for our children. And we allow them to actively participate and gain more on their learning experiences in the process rather than in their outputs. UPCDC upholds that each child is unique. Okay, and we believe that young children naturally learn through play, hands-on experiences, and interaction with their physical and social environment. Children are not passive recipients, but active participants in their development. And being a laboratory preschool, the UPCDC is also primarily used by undergraduate and graduate students of the Department of Family Life and Child Development, as well as students from other units of the university for observation, practice teaching, training in preschool management, development of instructional materials, and also research. So this is one of our classrooms in UPCDC. After the COVID-19 pandemic, UPCDC was also the first to open its doors and implement in-person preschool classes in 2022. So we have research-based policies and protocols carried and followed strictly by the teachers, parents, children, in order to have a safe reopening and continuation of our child development services. So this is the toddlers classroom in UPCDC. So in the classrooms, we have several learning areas. So here are some classroom areas. Dramatic play area. We also have a manipulatives area, arts and writing area, reading area, meeting area, and a wash area. So each classroom is divided into these different learning areas where children can do both structured and unstructured activities. Sometimes these learning areas may differ depending on the age and needs of each class. For example, in the infant development program classroom and the toddlers classroom, we have a sensory play area, breastfeeding area, and also a nap or a sleeping area for the babies. Here is our outdoor play area. So aside from our classrooms, we have shared open spaces in the center, such as our outdoor play area and our snack area. So we believe that outdoor play is an important part of the routine for the children. This outdoor play area also has ample space to conduct outdoor activities, for example, planting, where children can also actively play freely and run and jump and climb. Now, this is our snack area. So this is another shared space in UPCDC. Before the pandemic, we had our children eat their snacks inside the classrooms. But because of all the health and safety protocols we have now, we moved it outdoors in compliance to the recommended health and safety protocols. So the snacks for the children are provided by the school because we integrate health and nutrition in our curricular program. This is also in partnership with our other departments in the college, like the Department of Food Science and Nutrition and the Department of Hotel, Restaurant, and Institution Management. For the routines in class, this is what a typical week in UPCDC. This was our plan from my previous class last year. So we begin usually with work play, meeting time, story time, activity time, or sharing, ICC sharing, outdoor play, snack time, circle time, self-help, and then goodbye time. We follow the university schedule, which means we don't have classes every Mondays. We start on Tuesday until Friday, and we have 2 sessions. So there are morning classes, which start at 8 o'clock until 11 o'clock in the morning, and also an afternoon session, 1 o'clock until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So we don't have a fixed curriculum. We follow the integrated core curriculum, which maybe I'll share in another time. And regarding our routines, we have fixed and flexible routines. And there's a balance between quiet and active times, whole group, small group, and individual activities, and structured and unstructured activities to manage the children's behavior towards all the activities set for the day. And we also provide asynchronous activities or suggested home activities for the families so that they can continue the learning experiences at home. The goal of UPCDC is the holistic and optimal development of the children through the provision of a safe, secure, and stimulating learning environment, while fostering strong partnerships with their families and immediate communities. So we believe that the school should be a safe, secure, and stimulating environment where children can be children. And we promote the involvement of families and communities as our partners in enhancing the children's welfare and development. Okay, so in summary, based from the presentation, there are social and cultural factors that really affected the progress of early childhood education in our country. Not only probably in the Philippines, but also among all the other countries in the world. We cannot deny that the history and the influences played a big part in how we view early childhood education now and how we can also continue to improve our child development programs in the future. For us, a lot of influences still remain, but this should always be according to the children's best interest. For example, religion is still a big part in the curriculum of some private schools and church-oriented institutions. Our public education system is still designed based on the American educational system, so we cannot just remove all of these influences that they shared with us for almost 400 years. And whatever developments in ECE we may have, what's important is that we should still remember and consider the children's best interest because they are and they will be one of the most important assets of the nation. So it has been quite a long journey in order to achieve our current state of early childhood education, from the basic 3 R's of reading, writing, arithmetic. We now acknowledge the importance of holistic development of children in planning and implementing developmentally appropriate practices and good quality ECCD programs in the country. So we hope that through continued research and technological development, we can better influence the development of our child development programs. And to you also, as future educators, may you help develop and spread awareness of the current state of early childhood education. And we hope that you can also make your own influence in the field of ECE. So I guess that's all. Thank you very much for listening to this very brief background of the early childhood education in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Dr. Sam, if they
Okay.
have questions,
Yeah, thank
I
you.
can try to answer it.
Okay, thank you very much, Teacher AJ. Actually, your presentation is not brief, it's very comprehensive. So, I would like to pass the time to our students now. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask, Teacher AJ? So I will ask the first questions first. So nowadays, do the young children, what kind of languages do young children learn in preschools? Do they just focus on English or they will learn different types of languages?
Okay, so recently the Department of Education are promoting mother tongue based learning. So for provinces, they use their mother tongue until grade 3, but the most common language that we still use in terms of education is still English and Filipino.
Okay, thank you. So you will notice that they respect the differences, the background, the differences of the church individual family differences across the differences across different families because they might come from different linguistic backgrounds and therefore you will notice that it's very important to respect the family origin of the children. And then any other thing that you would like to know a bit more? So you mentioned that religion plays a very important role in some kindergartens, am I right? So can you elaborate a bit more how religion influenced the implementation of different ACE in various settings?
I'll just clarify. If that question is if how we use play in
Yeah, the religion, yeah, because you mentioned that religion plays
our religion.
yeah in some
Yes.
am I right? Yeah.
Okay. For private-owned preschools, their curriculum is really depending on how they view or their beliefs. So, for example, a preschool is owned by the church or a private institution that is also very directly influenced by religion. They have subjects wherein they talk and discuss and share about religion. So storytelling, Bible sharing. But in general, for public schools that have or that implement child development programs, we are still non-secular in a way. It is mostly up to their personal beliefs if they will add religion in their own preschool. But for public schools, as far as we know, that it is not really required.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, because in Hong Kong, you will notice that we do not have any public kindergartens in Hong Kong, so we only have kindergartens run by different organizations. Some of them may be religious organizations, and then in Hong Kong, we have some Christian schools or Buddhist school. We have different types of school. Yeah, I can elaborate a bit more, and I assume our students know about it. Thank you very much for your detailed and valuable sharing. So we look forward to seeing your students soon. Okay, thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you. We hope to meet with you soon.